All right, I want to talk about Arthur C. Clarke's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Just finished a reread. This will be kind of spoilery, I suppose, but I mean, it came out in 1968, but I still think people should read it. I'm not going to go through every moment of it, but just so I don't, people say, hey, you spoiled it for me. It's hard not to talk about this movie and the book without spoiling things because there's just so many things to talk about. If you haven't read it, I think it's certainly worth just watching. But I will say that in the movie, uh, I haven't watched the movie for ages now, but I remember it being a lot more vague about certain things, like with this monolith that these apes see in the opening sequence, and then the monolith kind of later on. Arthur C. Clarke is much more direct in how he handles some of the things that happen. It's not a very long book. It's under 300 pages. It moves along, I think, relatively quickly. I'm sure some people would find it slow. I kind of feel like a monkey, like this guy, uh, when I read some of these books because it's not always very, it doesn't always follow like a hero's journey or three act sort of sequence. It very much is its own thing. If you're looking for some special individual that has a power or some special quirk about them, it's not that. It's just everyday, very normal people handling this very extraordinary sort of situation that they're in, and it's broken into these three different areas. Now, if you don't know, if you aren't familiar with it, it has the opening within the movie that I think is kind of emblematic of what it's saying in the book and the movie, where the opening sequence, I remember it has these violins and stuff playing, and then it has like a big planet, and then it has that famous symphony opening sort of. It has that famous symphony. I think it's right here too. I just wanted to show this, but this sound, but I wanted to show this as well because it very much kind of recreates some of the vibe of what happens elsewhere in the book as well. Now I'm going to get flagged for this, but whatever. But in the opening before this, before anything happens, it has the planet and the light coming around the planet. Just like a light coming on. And this is an iconic scene. Also amazing in the book. Anyway, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. So he's gone from one way of thinking and doing things to another way that's going to propel them forward. Anyway, he's going to throw the bone up. And it's interesting that also within the book, there's like violence is kind of handled here. It's almost like there's a progression forward, but it also kind of brings a new sort of violent state of things, even though it's to defend themselves and whatever. But it's very interesting. And this ape scene millions of years ago is about 37 pages, and it's iconic in the movie. It's amazing in the book. I think even if you just read that opening scene, or not opening scene, few chapters, which is 37 pages again, I think it's totally, totally worth it. Anyway, he's going to throw the bone. I don't know how they did this in 1967. Anyway, it turns into a spaceship. Like we've entered this new age of enlightenment or discovery, and within the movie or within the book, we have this monolith. That's all this black monolith that is like the perfect dimensions, 1 by 4 by 9 or whatever, and all these apes that have been living amongst the warthogs and things, and they're not fighting each other because they're not really predators to each other until that moment. They kind of just coexist and whatever. There's these ape tribe other types across a river that scream at him every day. And this moon watcher ape, amongst the others who are just obsessed with looking at this monolith and don't really know what to make of it, it's like the lights come on in his eyes, and he starts to use tools and uses a femur as like a way of lengthening his attack range and having more power behind it, and leverage, and it just changes everything now that they can use these warthogs or these pigs as meat. They don't have to travel for miles every day and sometimes have to leave people behind. Now they can have extra time for going to the next phase. It's like the same with as we go to agriculture and whatnot. It's like we don't have to spend all of our human resources in the field. We can automate some of that and then go to the next sort of stage, which is interesting because we get to the iconic HAL sequence and how automating can kind of be potentially troublesome. HAL being an AI, and that's relevant today, I think, and is handled great in the novel. Then it just ends with that moment in the book and the movie where they kind of just leave that behind, but it's suggesting that that was kind of a spark towards getting us to this point, right? There is a mission to the moon where there's another sort of fascinating thing that is not able to be explained. And then there's another expedition to to Saturn, which I think in the movie it's to Jupiter. I'm not sure why they did that. But, and I didn't even mention, like, for those who don't know, Arthur C. Clarke worked with Stanley Kubrick. I don't know exactly how it kind of went back and forth between them. I think maybe Arthur C. Clarke sent a light manuscript of the movie to the script to Stanley Kubrick, who turned it into kind of what it became there. And then maybe Arthur C. Clarke afterward kind of made the novel based on the movie, kind of this back and forth. That might not totally be right, but I don't think they were kind of meshed, working on it, making all these creative decisions together the whole way through. I might not have that totally right, but because of that, I think you can also enjoy both. But you will get more explanation in the book. Now, in the movie, The Monument, it's not so clear what the monument even was for, but in the book, it's more clear, like, this is kind of sparking something within, there's something about it with this sound that it's giving off, or this aura or this supernatural thing that is sparking something within the apes. And then we get this evolutionary sort of journey that doesn't end there. I mean, other books that do this great, I can think of Children of Time, an amazing sort of novel that sparks some of that same really fascination with kind of the how people could evolve into, different types of... I'm rambling. But there's way more character in Children of Time than this. But that shouldn't put people off. Now, I feel like a stupid ape when I read this book because I get to the end, and I thought I was going to understand more this time, and I don't necessarily feel that way by the time I get to the end. But I still have such a good time with it. We have this expedition now to Saturn within the book. And we have some people that are under cryo state or cryo sleep, whatever. And these two officers that are kind of going back and forth, alternating between awake and asleep, and kind of taking control over some of the important duties that a person has to do. And they have this AI who manages all the life support and some important things that way. and it kind of goes a little bit sour in the novel and in the book. Now, in the book, it gives more reasonings of why it does that. I'll leave that for people to discover themselves. It's a little bit more vague, I feel, in the movie, but it has more of that kind of, it has more like it's stuck within a paradox, and also has this, self, this self-preservation sort of thing that ticks into it. It's never gone to sleep, so it wonders like if it breaks down, will I ever wake up? What is consciousness? And anyway, it's very interesting that way. And again, the way I'm describing it is like that dumb ape that threw the bone in the air. But again, it's amazing. And then by the end, it just, like with a lot of these books where you have to just white knuckle the ending because it just gets so out there. You can think of movies that kind of just expand time to like infinite degrees and consciousness, and they almost become like these godlike sorts of, or tap into these crazy, surreal sorts of entities, or whatever's happening. Arthur C. Clarke likes to do that sometimes, and it certainly happens here. And there's like another kind of awakening moment for mankind and for the characters. So anyway, if I've kind of explained all that, and I know I spoiled a lot of this, but I let you know that I would. But I think it still is worth going through at least once. I'm a sucker for these sorts of books. I know that a lot of people will want more of a hero's journey sort of story. It's about the characters. I'm kind of okay with regular humdrum office workers that seem like people I would work with just in any other kind of capacity. Obviously, they're like astronauts and people that are very, very smart. But like they just play cards and they're just regular people, and it's more about their fascination with this foreign, like everything seems so regular and normal and relatable until this very odd thing happens. And it's not always that they rise up to some great challenge and defeat something. Like that's not what these books always are. It's more about the concept of the strange and the supernatural and the weird and the things, that element of what is out there that we don't understand, whether it is material or whether it is, like just stuff that we don't understand about the nature of reality itself and time and whatever. So I think it's great. I think it's great. So I will be moving on to, I'm on a Arthur C. Clarke kick, and I have about 10 of them that I'm wondering which one I'm going to go to next. But I hope you guys will give some of these a try. If you need something that's a little bit less weird, obviously go to, well, I can't even say, I was going to mention less weird, go to Childhood's End, but that's pretty dang weird as well. But I mean, you could go to the Songs of Distant Earth. You could go to, I even like, what is it? The Time's Eye. There's a few of them there. There's a interesting, I've only read a couple of these ones. They're not very good, but of these Venus Prime, his series there. Anyway, I don't want to ramble and make this too long. So love you guys, and I'll talk to you on another one whenever that'll be.